Like to introduce?
Yes, I will be introducing the beautiful Amy Saloner. So I'm looking forward to it. So Amy is a licensed clinical social worker and a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and has been I I see her and she's makes me want to smile, and has been working with children's and family for 30 years as a therapist, coach, educator, and an event producer. She lives with her husband and three adolescent children. One is her bonus son, is an intentional community in an intentional community in North County, San Diego. Amy specialized in building resilient teams and family to create thriving young adult through a holistic approach, addressing body, mind, relationship, and purpose. When she isn't working as a family coach, she is dancing, reading, cuddling with her pup, or traveling. So thank you, Amy, for being here. Take it away.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. This is a topic near and dear to my heart, as I am a child of divorce. So at 5, my parents divorced. So I had bonus parents as well and had 2 households to navigate. And then I married a man who had a son. So I have navigated for the last 17, 18 years now, being a step parent or a bonus parent. And as a therapist, I had certain knowledge, but I didn't really integrate all of that until I was faced with these same challenges myself. So I'm going to share some slides with you all. And let's see if I can find where it went. Uh-oh, hold on one second. Let's go here. See if that shows up instead. Okay. Let's cancel that for a sec. All right, give me one second. Love technical challenges.
Mm-hmm.
They just keep me on my toes. All right, so let me hit present here to make this a little more visually appealing, and we will get started. So yes, I've been working as a therapist, and I work primarily with teens and their families, although I work with couples as well. And this isn't going to let me present.
On the top left, maybe?
Present full screen. It's not letting me, but can you see the slides?
We can see the slide. If you press the
presenter view.
Yeah, this middle one, not that one, up top, Amy, next to the.
I did hit that, and it's not giving me the
presenter view. It won't do presenter view.
All right, we're going to come out of this.
You might stop sharing the screen, click presenter view, and then share it gives you 2 views. Share the one without your notes.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Everything is moving very slowly today. I can't seem to get out of this, so.
You might have to stop sharing first.
I'm going to kill your share so you can start over.
Okay, thank you. It won't let me get out of it.
There you go. Now you can start over.
Okay, let's see if I can
get it. It's all good. We've been there before.
Yep.
And I have so much, of course, to present. So I'm going to have to go really quickly, but nothing is working for me right now. All right, let's see if I can go here. I can go here. Let me just refresh this, but I'll just get started and start sharing with you that, part of my work is I work a lot with parents, and as my work as a therapist, for many, many years, I noticed that parents were dealing with often facing and focusing on each other rather than I've just gotten myself into a load of trouble here. Let's do this instead. So I'm just going to keep talking and start sharing, and then we'll have the slides catch up. But a lot of times as parents, we are focused on when we have separated. These are people who we've made a choice not to be in relationship with anymore. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But when it comes to having children, we have to decide how we're going to parent together. And I will say that I was given a great gift as a child, in that my parents would actually come together and have conversations. And that was a model that really helped me. They didn't always see eye to eye. And in fact, they didn't really care for each other as much as I would have hoped. But they at least were willing at times to come together with the intention that this was for us, my brother and I, to make sure that the parents were on the same page. And I'm just going to share here, and I'm not going to try to present it. We're just going to go with that. And so they gave me the great opportunity to see what it was like for parents to just talk with each other. Hopefully you can see that now. And a lot of times what I see is
Perfect.
can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, you're just going to have to see the slides below so that I can make sure I can keep moving forward. But the biggest obstacle that I see in working with families is that they're often fighting with each other instead of focusing together on a challenge that they're facing. And that's not helpful to the family. And sometimes it's inevitable, but it can be shifted. And the way that I focus with families is, how can we together put our attention in the same direction, right? How can we look at what the challenges are that we're concerned about, the things that we're concerned about, and modeling healthy problem solving, right? So we, as parents, have to kind of realize that our kids are watching us. So they're paying attention to how we're solving problems. So we have to pay attention to what's ours and what's really going on. And if we're all looking at the same problem together, usually instead of looking at each other and saying, well, this person is bad and this person is wrong, but we're saying, this is the problem we're all facing. How can we all work on this together? Now, this can happen. These principles work within and between homes. As a parent myself, I often have to do a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you today just to make sure that my kids and I are on the same page. And one of those kids is a bonus child. He is my stepchild. So, you know, we had different agreements and things going on in the two households that my son was in. And, you know, they were different. The households were different, but our goals were to be in alignment about how we were parenting. And so for many of you, you may either feel like your challenges are between the two households, that there's not alignment and that you would like there to be. There may also be within the household that there's, you know, disagreements and not harmony. So, but you may also have both. Now, I will give a caveat that if one of the adults that we're dealing with has a mental health challenge or is abusive, the collaboration strategies that I'm going to talk about may need to be adjusted for self-preservation or also just for the care of your child. So you have to keep that in mind. What I'm going to be talking about are typically functioning adults who can have conversations together. Okay. Now, there's a concept that I teach a lot about, and this is from Dr. Daniel Siegel, and it's this idea of the we, which is the me and the we. And when we're looking at this sense of, we have a lot of individuals in a household, especially a lot of adults with opinions and ideas and histories and backgrounds, that we have these desires and things that are important to us as individuals, as independent individuals, that we have to take self-responsibility for. And we may want certain things, but we also have a we have the whole community. Now, I live in an intentional community, which means that I live with many other families on a piece of property, and we share we share life together, which means that I'm also dealing with many other families and making decisions. So I do this all the time within my household. I was doing it when my stepson was younger with his mom, and now I do it in the community. So this is something I have a lot of experience of figuring out how you take personal needs and put them in a collective and care for the collective needs as well. So we have, and we also pendulate between, like, you know, you can either be really focused on these are my needs and this is what I need all the time, or you can say, oh, well, I will only do what's good for the family or good for the community. But we have to do both. We have to see that we are collective together. So in order to do this, I talk a lot about resilience, and resilience is relational. These are the things that we do that we're stretched, but we can always come back to form if we have some core strategies that we use to take care of ourselves and take care of each other. And those three things with regard to this particular topic are boundaries, communications, and agreements and expectations. Now, to start off with boundaries, a lot of people think that boundaries are something that we do to keep others out. But that's not true. Boundaries are the things that we put into place to let people know how best to connect with us. So I like to think of boundaries as a roaring river, and it's got banks that have sides that sort of contain the energy of what's happening in the relationships. There may be boulders and rocks and places that, you know, direct the flow of traffic, but for the most part, it's contained, and the river of connection still flows. But those boundaries are there to hold that container, to take care of oneself and to take care of each other. And so thinking of the me and the we, this is, you know, our boundaries are responsible. They are necessary, particularly in these kinds of relationships. And they need to be based on shared values or personal values and in alignment with the best for them we. And relationally, we want to remember that boundaries are important when they affirm our needs and not our fears and our wounds. And this is a very deep topic that we can go into. We don't put up boundaries to hold people out again, and that's usually from a place of fear and woundedness. But when we hold boundaries as a place of, you know, how best to connect, then it makes it a lot easier. And we do that through communication. Now, communication requires us to, when we have to communicate, especially with people who, you know, we maybe have had challenging relationships before, it's good to have a structure of communication. And I like to use Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, with this idea that most of the time in our natural state, we're going to follow our beliefs and our judgments about people, situations, and things like that, which when we have a belief, it brings up a feeling, and then we respond to that. And a lot of times we can respond from a place of having, you know, judgments are challenging because they're your opinion, but they're not based on observation. And what I love about this is that when I work with couples and families about using this language, we basically take the emotion out of it. The feelings are still there, but the emotion comes out of it. And that's the idea that we can observe a behavior that we like or don't like. And then from that behavior, that brings up a feeling in us. Well, feelings come from usually a met or unmet need, and we'll talk about that in a second. But when we understand what our needs are, then we can express those through a request or a strategy that maybe helps everybody to get their needs met. So typically our strategies stem from met or unmet needs and learned behavior. I talk about this with my families all the time. We get into these grooves of how we respond to each other, and we come out the other side like, why did I have to react that way again? Right? Well, we have to get out of our grooves, get out of our rhythms of communicating that maybe aren't as effective. And everybody has to take self-responsibility for that. Do I understand? And the way that we do that, again, in the me side, in this vertical side, do I understand my own needs and values? Sometimes, most of the time, we don't know what that is. And can I regulate my nervous system to observe objectively what's happening, right? Not letting it trigger those really big reactions, but taking a step back and being curious. I talk a lot about curiosity in parenting, that we have to be curious about what's going on instead of reactive and using our judgment, right? Let's be curious. And also horizontally, can I be in a state of compassion and receptivity to not only share, but also receive requests? When we have conversations, this is a two-way street. We're having to also communicate with each other about and listen to each other. So I've adapted these universal human needs from Tony Robbins. These are universal. We all have these needs. And most of the time, I bet you can pick out where it is when you get upset with somebody, where it is that your need is not met. So some of us need certainty and some of us need more uncertainty, which is that adventure and play and spontaneity, whereas some need really like consistency and safety and predictability. We need both, but sometimes in varying degrees. We need to feel significant and like we're important and valued for who we are. We need to be contributing and caring and giving. We need to be growing and learning and feeling creative. And we also need connection and love and belonging. Okay. I teach a lot about the nervous system, and belonging is a huge part of our social nervous system. And this whole exercise is about repairing a lot of the social nervous system dysregulation that happens. These are some universal human feelings. I have a whole list in my communication map, which I can share with you all, that has a lot more of them, but these are generally the different feelings that come up, but sometimes we don't even know what we're feeling. So it's important for us to understand that when something happens, when we start to have a feeling, that we need to pause and stop and understand, okay, what is the actual behavior? It's not that this person is lazy or mean or rude or, those are all judgments, but it's like, okay, when your ex-spouse is consistently 20 minutes late to pick up your child, and you start to have big emotions about that. It's like, okay, the observable, it's not that this person is disrespectful. We don't know, that's judgment, but we can say, you know what? The observable behavior is when you're 20 minutes late to pick up our child, I start to feel really frustrated and really angry because my need is for certainty and to feel respected and that my time is respected. And my need is for us to figure out what it's going to take for you to get there on time, or do we need to adjust our expectations? Again, giving two choices oftentimes will help somebody not to feel as defensive. But this idea is I've just communicated what I've seen, what I feel, what my need is, and also suggested strategy, or we can have a conversation about it. So how do we come up with these agreements? These agreements require sometimes a little bit of work in advance. When we start to have a lot of reaction, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, or whatever we're feeling, we usually have to get clear first. What is my need? What is underneath all of this? And what are your non-negotiables? So I teach a lot when we're negotiating, because especially when we're dealing with teens and we're dealing with adults, we need to be able to negotiate. We cannot be rigid or we're going to have a really hard time. So to be able to negotiate means I have to have certain things that are non-negotiable to me. Now, I teach parents this with their teens as well. Usually things that are non-negotiable are things around safety, right? And having basic needs met and, personal self-care. Some of those things might be those non-negotiables, like making sure that your child is always safe. Now, in order to have a negotiation, you also have to have buy-in. You cannot come and say, we need to deal with this if the person's like, I'm not dealing with it. You have to find a way to be able to have these conversations and to know what some possible strategies are that are going to make you feel good, but also be ready to negotiate to make sure that the other person is going to agree to it as well. So the family meeting. Now, these family meetings can be between two households. They can be within a household. Again, these are all, you can navigate all of these in the same similar way. So agreements are made when everyone's voice is heard and decisions meet the needs of all parties. Okay. We have to, and this includes the children at times, that their voices also need to be heard as to what it feels like for them to be, when there's certain challenges between households. But the goal here between families, my encouragement always is that you're at least a unified front, that there are certain things that you're going to be the same. And then also to trust that these two parents have their own ways too. And the child is going to learn about life from two different perspectives. That's actually really helpful. Okay, especially when bonus parents come in and they have new perspectives. Again, we want to be curious and allowing that there are non-negotiables, things that we want to make sure are consistent across households, but that are also negotiable and allowed, even if it's not our preference, but it doesn't interfere with safety or anything super concerning. So I like to use a collaborative model with equal sharing and adults finding common ground to create this unified field. And what a good agreement includes is who is responsible, who is holding accountability, particularly if it's somebody who needs to be held accountable, maybe like the child, who's going to hold that accountability, when is it going to get done, and the consequences if it doesn't. Now, this equates to the parents as well, right? Like, if you don't do these things, then I'm going to, and this is where a boundary comes in. If you're not able to pick up our child at the agreed upon time, then I might have to go about my day and they're going to have to come with me. I can't wait if these are the appointments, right? And so you have to be clear about what you're going to do, not to be mean, but to allow yourself to hold particular boundaries that protect and take care of your needs as well. And then they have to agree to it. Well, okay, yeah, I can understand that. I can agree to that. Or no, I won't. Well, then tell me what you think another solution is, right? This is solution problem solving conversations. This can be between you and the kids too. I oftentimes have my kids tell me what their consequences are going, what do you think a good consequence would be if you don't do X, Y, and Z? Oh, well, I should have this happen and this happen. And most of the time kids are going to be way more hard on themselves than you are. And you can say, well, I can see why you would say that, but what about this? Right? But you come to agreement about those consequences before it happens. That's very important. And in order to have these kinds of family meetings, we also have to set the stage before we even get started. We have to know that everybody's in a good space. I can tell you right now, it's not a good time to have a family meeting and figure out agreements in the middle of or immediately after a conflict. Okay? It is not effective because you are still in your limbic brain of fight or flight or freeze and trying to deal with the emotion of it all instead of moving to our prefrontal cortex where we problem solve. But we can't be here until we are regulated and can actually use that part of our brain. Okay. So, and in the process, we need to have time to figure out what our observations, feelings, and needs are and what our requests are. And I also encourage people to have ground rules about their meetings that everybody agrees to. We don't talk over each other. We listen. Everybody gets a chance to listen. Maybe we put a timer on and everybody gets a chance to talk about this thing, this particular situation until we've all been heard. And then we all get to talk about some possible solutions. So whatever ground rules make sense for you and your family, I encourage you to have them to ensure that everybody feels heard, everybody feels safe, and we can come back to structures like nonviolent communication to say, okay, wait, I see that you're upset, but let's come back to how we're going to talk to each other, right? This allows us to keep the emotions out of it and focused on the problem at hand. Okay. And this is also important in this process. And this is what we're teaching our kids too, is what's mine, what's yours, and what's ours to hold. What's mine to hold is healing the wounds that I need to heal that keep getting triggered by your behavior, right? Some of these things are things that I have to deal with to let go of, right? I have to let go of control of what happens in the other household. I have to let go of control of whether you're going to date or not date. I'm going to have to let go of control of certain things and let some things go, but also take responsibility for the boundaries and things that are important to me and hold those boundaries. And then also, what's ours to work through? What are the things that we have to do to be kind, to be gentle, to create practices and things together that are all of our responsibilities? All right. So we have plenty of time. I ran through that very quickly. any questions?
Can you say a little more about your work with teenagers?
For sure. So I am a therapist, but a lot of times what I consider myself is a resilience coach. So when I work with families in private practice, I work part-time in an as an online therapist, where I work with couples and families and individuals. But in my practice, in my private practice, I work with parents and teens using a very holistic approach to building resilience, basically. And that is focusing on the body, where I bring in my nutrition background and my understanding of the connection between our physical well-being and our mental well-being. So understanding nervous system regulation, understanding how nutrition impacts our mood, understanding just physiologically, what sleep and self-care does to help fortify us. And then I focus on the mind, which is our organization, our executive functioning, how do we manage our time and our energy, and building particular life skills that teens are going to need when they become an adult. I focus on relations, which is a lot of what I'm sharing with you today, is negotiation and relationships and communication and boundaries and all of those kinds of things. And then I focus on purpose, which is what's important to them. And from a parent's perspective, I teach a lot about rites of passage and this idea that teens, well, all of us go through certain moments in time. And when we don't honor them really intentionally, our kids can start to feel really lost in the world. So I teach parents a lot about rites of passage and how to help kids really figure out who they are and what's important to them. And when you bring these 4 pillars together and you focus on them in an integrative way, then we're really focusing on the whole person, the whole child, and the whole family, and how we can build capacity for dealing with the stresses of the world. So I work individually with teens. I work a lot with parents. I have a support group called Coffee Chats, where we meet twice a month. I teach a lot of these principles, and then the parents get held accountable and get to put into practice all the things that I'm teaching about brain development, nervous system regulation. We just did that one this month. Next month, we're going to talk about nutrition. So this gives us a chance to, for me to work on both ends with parents and teens. And so you can learn a lot about my work here. I invite you to follow me on the socials. And if you do, and you want, I have a worksheet called a communication map, which breaks a lot of this stuff down. And if you want that right now, you can follow me on either Instagram or Facebook and DM me and say that you want the communication map, and I will send that to you. But otherwise, I'm also, for just generally for this community, I'm giving away my Resilient Family course, which is a $200 value, which you get for free. And for any of those VIPs, you can actually get a 90-minute consultation with me to go over these and actually figure out a plan if you're feeling really stuck. So that's all for you.
Thank you so much. Another great reason to go VIP. I keep bringing it up because it's such an amazing value, this way, this little QR code here. And you are one of the speakers who's giving away amazing gifts, courses, workbooks, free sessions. So
I just want families to feel really supported, because I know that this is hard. I know personally how hard it is. So yeah.
And I have a question about your community. Does anyone else have a question? I don't see one, but I'm not. Okay, no, I don't see another question.
I just wanted to say thank you, Amy. Very, very educational. Very good.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Is your community accepting new members?
Actually, I think we just filled our last spot. But if you are interested, you can go to theemeraldvillage.com and learn about us. We do open community brunches once a month, so you can come visit if you're in the San Diego area and see how we live.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lovely community.
It is. It's really wonderful.
And you mentioned a platform I just wanted to make sure people knew which one is that you said you do online work with. Did you want to mention that?
With the coffee chats and
No, you said you do online counseling.
oh, I worked for ThriveWorks, which is an online therapy platform, and yeah, I can see people through their insurance actually, which is one of the reasons I did it. So because sometimes families can't afford to pay my fees, but they can do it through their insurance to see me.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Amy. It looks like we're going to end on time, amazingly. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you will all check out her work. It's really fantastic. And I see you have a message from Christine Grant, who would like to connect with you.
Okay. Let me copy that.
I will
So-
definitely be connecting with Amy as well. So
I already have.
Yeah, that was your first thing was, oh my gosh, I'm excited for you to be on this summit, but I really want to know about your community.
All right, Ree, take it away.
I will. Thank you so much, Amy. So our next speaker today grew up, it's Sarah M. I have the privilege and honor as a friend